Hey, good morning. Good morning, Ryan. How are you today?
Morning. I'm great. I'm great. Hope you had a good weekend.
Good. I did. And do you feel like you and your family, it's like a foot into like the holiday, like with Thanksgiving, and then we still have college applications work to do. I mean, yeah, it's that tricky time. Do you have a how busy is your work week are you working through like Wednesday or something? Like what is your
Yeah,
plan?
the only day I'm not working is Thursday.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, me
But I
too.
don't
But
have a lot
it's not
of
as
stuff on Friday. It's pretty easy.
yeah, that's nice. You can do a lot
Mhm.
of behind the scenes
Mhm.
and I know that I know thank you for being a guest today. And I think it's quite timely, um, especially as we think of Thanksgiving and families coming together. We think of seniors and college applications. And I know the seniors have a lot of questions. I was just reading an article this morning. A survey was given to high school students, and they said even above and beyond the rigor of junior year, the fall can often pose the most stress for seniors. And they
Mhm.
seem like any and everywhere they go, whether they're even in the grocery store or at a sporting event or at Thanksgiving at like a family get together, they're asked like, well, where are you applying to? Have you heard anything? And it
Yeah.
just is ongoing. So I know
Yes.
what is quite timely, and I thank you for being a guest because I'm really interested in hearing from you. Um, Now that we are through with early action, right? These college application early action due dates, and students, for the most part, right? I mean, we're done with
Yeah, for
yeah,
the most part.
and students
Mhm.
are looking at regular decision.
Right.
Um, I mean, I guess the question from my point of view is it to what extent is there a shift in how you present yourself, in anything additional you would add in the time of year if you're a student applying regular decision versus early decision?
Sure. Sure. So there's a few things that some of my students have been working on. Number one, take retaking the SAT or ACT to try to bump up that
Uh,
score.
mhm.
Now, obviously, a lot of colleges are test optional, so it's not necessarily necessary, but there are,
Right.
a few colleges that still require it, like the state schools in
Yeah.
Georgia and Florida.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
maybe there's a student that's just trying to hit a certain number to get an automatic scholarship, like for South Carolina, right? So if you hit a certain number
Oh,
of GPA or SAT or ACT, you're guaranteed a certain number or amount of money. So the higher that score, the higher the scholarship, the more money you get. And so they might want to try to go after that if that's like the number one or number two choice.
right.
So that's one thing. Number two is GPA. A lot of students struggled sophomore year or had something happen during their sophomore or freshman year, and they're trying to build
Yeah.
up that GPA, and they just need that next semester to do that. And their high schools will update their transcript. Now, some high schools don't do that, so you got to check with your high schools parents and students if you're watching this, if they update the transcript, and if they do, when do they do it? Most high schools do it at the end of junior year and into senior year. And if you're, obviously, if you're trying to build up your GPA and you're waiting for regular decision to build up that GPA after the second semester, and your high school doesn't, update their grades, then it's kind of pointless, if that makes sense. However,
Okay,
if
so
you're,
that's really interesting. Yeah, go ahead. And I have a question for you.
yeah, no, I was just going to say, however, the high school does, update the transcript, update the grades throughout the year or the end of the semester, then if you need that bump up in GPA, then it makes sense to obviously wait till the end of the semester and then apply to college as long as you don't miss any deadline dates, right? And then of
Okay,
course
so
extracurricular activities as well, right?
totally, totally. But even okay, so we've talked about three things here. And
Mhm.
for those of you hopping on and watching us, hello, thank you for joining us. We're talking about college seniors and college applications and early admissions and now regular admissions decisions and due dates. And so Ryan, from a college consulting point of view, is sharing with us how students are looking at their college applications now that they're thinking of, applying for regular decision, the only due dates that are left. But here's my question to you. What about when you're talking about boosting SAT or ACT scores or GPA with the upcoming, the end of the first semester?
Right.
If a student has actually already applied,
Mhm.
is there, I mean, maybe I know what you're going to say, it depends on the college, but my question is there the opportunity for them, whether it's formally coming through their high school or themselves, to say like, hey, look, college, I increased my SAT score, or hey, look, college, since I applied, I have been nominated captain of this
Mm.
sport, or my grades have really gone up. Like, how does that work if you have already applied?
If you've already applied, then obviously you're going to wait until you've received your notification if you've been accepted, denied, or waitlisted. And then, of course,
Okay.
if you're waitlisted, we could spend a whole meeting on this. But if you're waitlisted,
Yes.
then that's your opportunity to go back to the school and say, hey, look at my GPA, it's risen, or I've taken on
Okay.
additional leadership responsibilities, or my SAT score, ACT scores have increased by X amount of. And so that gives you a little bit of opportunity to potentially get off of that wait list. So yeah, that is
Okay.
kind of a feather in your cap if you can do that.
But there's a difference if you're on the wait list versus if you applied early and then you've been moved to the regular decision pile, right?
Yeah, I mean, you still want to reach out. To me, it's almost the same process. It depends. To your answer, it depends upon the school.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
colleges will let you know exactly what to do if you're going
Okay.
into a regular decision pool. Some colleges will
Oh,
say,
okay.
hey, if you have any additional information or anything new, please let us know. And
Right.
some colleges will say, please do not contact us whatsoever. We've moved your application into the regular admission pile, and
Yeah.
we'll let you know our decision on so and so
And
day.
do you know, and does it change every year? I mean, can you think of, is it like fairly open knowledge just from your point of view and your experiences to think of some colleges that are just like, do not, even if your test scores go up, or, you've applied, we have thousands of applicants. Like, do you know of any that are just like, don't reach out to us, don't, or it just,
You mean when they apply early action, don't get in, and their applications move directly to the regular
yes,
decision pool?
yes,
Not right offhand. There's definitely some. I remember last year, COVID 2 years ago, there were definitely colleges out there that said, "Don't
yeah,
contact us."
right.
I remember seeing that with my students, but I can't remember right offhand what those colleges
Yeah,
are.
yeah, okay, so it's not like, and that's actually an interesting that it's not like right off the bat, you had like 3 that are like, "Oh, don't," they just discourage this, or,
Mhm.
I would think that if a student did apply early and they were moved, they weren't accepted, they weren't rejected, but their application was moved to the regular decision pile, that if they did have some significant increases in their credentials, like their standardized tests, or they had the best grades of their life first semester as a senior and took really rigorous classes, that would be, if I was a college, I'd want to know if a
Sure.
student, they'd like to see that general upward trend, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Interesting.
think it would hurt unless they tell you specifically not to let them
Right.
know, right? I mean,
Right.
you if it's a college you really want to attend, then you want to shoot your shot, as I say. You gotta
Absolutely.
lay everything out on the line, and
Right. You don't want it to be like June saying like, oh, why didn't I let them know that I got an A in AP physics and I took on this extra community service project? I felt silly, but it's like, that's what you don't want. Like, just don't leave anything on the table, as they say, right? So I just thought
yeah.
of a great question for you. I was at parent teacher conferences for my own students, and one of the moms said, and I was thinking about our live here, said, well, my son has applied to so many schools and there are like 3 he still is really interested in, but he's just so burned out.
Mhm.
What would you say to someone like that? I mean, what advice would you give? And I think I know what I think I would say, but I thought, gosh, I wonder what Ryan would say to this mom right now. Like, what do you
Right.
think you'd tell that parent?
Well, first thing I'd want to know more information. So how many did he apply to? So did he apply to like 2 and he's burnout,
I think
or
she
did
said
he
like 7.
7? Okay.
I think,
That's
yeah.
reasonable. That's a lot of work. So I would kind of sit down if it was my son or my student that I'm working with, a client that I'm working with. I'd say, okay, tell me about these other schools. I know you've worked really hard, so obviously you prioritize. So those other seven you must have liked more than these last three, right? There's got to be a reason why they pushed the last three off to the end. So I'd want to know more
Mm.
about that. Is it, too many essays that they don't want to write anymore? Or are they just done with the whole
I think
process?
that's what it was. I think that's what it was in this mom knowing like how I helped students. And I
Mm,
thought to myself then like, I was going to be called next in line to go talk to the teacher. But, I understand the burnout, especially with
mm,
all these college applications and
right.
school classes and then final exams coming up. But there's a big but. It's like you said, I think I would want that student to talk to a college counselor and really talk through like, are these schools you're really interested in? Because if you can be strategic, you can probably leverage a lot of what you've already written. And if you really are interested, like really interested in these schools, just go for it, right? I mean,
Yeah, I try to put it in perspective. So,
right,
2 years from now, would you look back and feel guilty that you didn't go for it and apply to those schools? Or would you be okay? Right? I mean, if you'd be okay, then maybe you don't want to waste the time and effort. But if you would feel sorry that you didn't
exactly.
do it, then let's figure out a way to get this done and
Right,
make this happen.
right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it seems to me that I mean, kind of in my neck of the woods, if you've submitted, you're done. But with the way you help students, there's still a lot of of the counseling, the consulting work that goes on through finishing the applications. And then what if you are deferred to the regular admissions? And just, it seems like, I mean, to what extent do you feel like you serve as a source of like motivation for some of these students? Like, how do you reach that fine line between like logic and inspiration and motivation? Like, what's your, do you have like some steps you take families or students through?
Oh, absolutely. And part of my job is not only walking them through the college planning process, but I think it's also just to be an ear that they can talk to. That's not mom and dad. That's not a sibling or a friend. Just to get my perspective on things that I've worked with lots of young men and women. So they tend to listen to my opinions and what I suggest that they do because they've seen and know
Right,
that I've done this a lot. So part of it is
right,
just kind of listening and hearing and helping them, pat them on the back every once in a while, and also
right.
give them a little pat and say, "Hey, let's get going. You're falling behind
Yeah,
here. So let's go."
yeah,
Right. So
yeah,
part of
absolutely.
my job is that. There's no doubt about it.
Right,
But that's why I
right.
love my job. It's the best job in the world because you really get to
Yes.
these young men and women and these moms and dads, and hopefully over the next 6 to 8 months, you can see, the results of all the hard work that they've put in and that you've put in as well.
Well, I think it's so interesting as far as striking that balance with what you do between, logic and reason, and then, feelings and emotion. As far as if you have students, let's say juniors right now, or new families, let's say like sophomores even, and these students have these grandiose expectations of gaining acceptance to schools with, let's say, less than a 20% acceptance rate.
Right. Yeah, that's hard.
So, and I know we're deviating a little bit about our regular decision in early applications, and so maybe we should put this on hold for the new year, as far as newer students and helping them realize the healthy competition. You can always still apply, but these are the facts. These are just the facts, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
and
these are
just
the
because
yeah,
the college has a low acceptance rate doesn't mean you're going to get a better education.
yeah,
Right?
right.
It's not
Of course.
necessarily
Well, I know that's a whole point of yours that you are passionate about. I've picked up on over the years.
Yeah, yeah. And the good news is we have facts to support it. So it's just not
Yeah,
me talking. It's
totally. Yeah.
we can definitely
Oh,
spend a whole
absolutely. Well, and let's do that. But back to the main topic. I mean, as far as like regular decision now, and your perspective and helping these kids, is there anything that these kids should really think about, like, is there a shift in how they apply if they're looking at applying, let's say in January versus like rushing to get everything done in October. I mean, it's like October to the middle of November, December. Those are 3 months. Like that's a lot. Like what would be a couple of bits of advice that you could give some of these seniors who maybe they really have added a few things to their credentials? Maybe they haven't.
Yeah, maybe they
Or
haven't. And
are there any difference? Yeah.
yeah, so I'd say the only difference is the time, as you mentioned. You want to use time to your advantage. As you know, this time of year flies by because there's so many things going on between the holidays and days off, and students coming home and finishing up their semesters. I mean, they're really busy as well, but at the same time, you have a longer period of time typically, and you want to use it to your advantage. So if you have a week off for Christmas, um, why not use that to write your essays,
Absolutely.
double check everything, triple check your essays one more time, have mom and dad take a look at it, hire someone like yourself, right, to read over and give them specifics on how to make it better and polish it up and
Mhm.
stand out from the crowd. I mean, this is the time of year when you want to use time to your advantage if you have the time. And you were mentioned that other young man or young woman who was struggling to finish up those last few applications. Well, maybe this is the time to really sit down and go, okay, mom and dad, and is this someplace I really want to go? Or is this someplace that mom and dad's pushing me to apply and I
Right.
really don't want to?
Right.
Really kind of have that heart to heart talk about that and then just kind of
Yeah.
prioritize. All right, let's knock this thing out before the
Right.
beginning of the year if possible.
Yeah, I agree. I know I have a few students who still have like, oh, I said, oh, Miss Haskell, let's not do until January 15th. I'm like, oh no, you're in this mode right now of this like personal essay writing, and then you're going to have finals coming. I'm like, finish, finish, finish. The break is actually, I don't think it's, unless you're fried or sick, or I don't think
Right,
it's beneficial. I think it's like kind of like staying organized, like doing the same task, right?
right,
Even they say that about like cleaning, stay in the same area and finish it before running to, do the
right,
laundry. So I think the same thing with those essays or polishing up your activities list,
okay,
to just stay organized, stay motivated. And like you said, like commit to a schedule, commit to
mhm,
checking those things off your list. And I think the nice thing, one of the nice things, one of the many nice things about what we do is what drives these kids. They are due dates.
mhm,
There are due dates. And it's even like me with like the English class essay tutoring. It's like not just, oh, let's talk about how to be a better student. Or, I mean, you too, you're like, I've got freshmen. This is the end of freshman year. You're a sophomore. These are the due dates for you seniors. And I think that's healthy. It creates a healthy pressure. And what I'm hearing from you is let the pressure stay healthy and use your time wisely. So I think that's great. I think that's a great place to wrap it up. Um, are there any last tidbits? Are there any last bits of advice as we head into Thanksgiving? And a lot of the seniors are going to be hearing, from grandparents, aunts, neighbors, friends, like about their college applications. What would you tell them as far as getting through if they're getting a little frustrated?
yeah. When I talk to my seniors, I tell them to appreciate their family and friends and expect those questions because typically it's maybe relatives that just don't know you. I mean, know you, but don't know you or don't get to see you every day. And so they're trying to find that common ground
Right.
subject that they can ask them
Yeah.
about. And the only thing that they really know about you is that you're going off to college, right? You're in high school, you're heading out to college. So what are they going to
Right.
bring up? College, right? So
Right.
expect those questions. Don't get frustrated
Right.
and just let them know that you're still, if you are undecided, just let them know you're undecided. You're going to take your time. You're going to make a good decision. And
Right.
hopefully you use your heart and your calculator when making that decision.
Yes, yes, that's a good one. I like that. Yeah, I think that's a good point is that a lot of, like anything, if what's in our head and we're ruminating and thinking about a lot, we might become a little bit sensitive, like, oh, wow, I didn't make the early application due date, or oh, I know I'm applying to this school and it's so hard and I statistically probably won't get in. And so a lot of seniors naturally perhaps feel insecure, a little bit sensitive. And if,
Yeah,
old, Aunt Betty is just trying to make conversation, or
right.
grandpa, is just trying to try to just have an awareness of that. I actually think, Ryan, I'm going to focus on this for my newsletter this week. It's going to be more like healthy communication tips to get
Mm.
through a high pressure time for kids and parents.
Yeah,
That's my
same here.
goal, to get it out. Yeah.
We're on the
So
same way.
anyway, we're on the same, yeah, on the same wavelength. But anyway, well, thank you so much for joining me today. And where is the best, most effective place for parents to get a hold of you if they had some questions?
Yeah, you can go to clarkcollegeconsulting.com. There's a no cost button at the top. Feel free to click on it, fill out quick information, and we'll schedule a time to speak.
Awesome. And I would highly recommend parents, you go ahead and book a call with Ryan, whether you have a freshman, sophomore, or especially junior right now, so that you can get on his calendar and remove the frustration for college planning and step into clarity. So thank you again so much, and have a happy Thanksgiving,
You
Ryan. I
too.
appreciate you being here.
Thanks, everyone. Hope you have a
Okay,
safe and happy Thanksgiving.
thanks.